Good evening, everybody. Peace and blessings. Welcome to another episode of Conversations with Asiya, where our goal is to educate and empower the women of our communities and the girls that we are raising. I am your host, Asiya Nasir Shahid. Tonight, we have a great show for you. No holds bar. We're going to have straight talk, real talk with a beautiful couple that I have been dying to have on this show. So I am so excited that I'm here to introduce you to a beautiful couple by the name of Brother Hassan and Sister Naila Clay, also known as the Ozzie Davis and Ruby D of Marriage Counseling. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How are you guys doing tonight?
I'm just doing well,
We making it happen.
I know that's right. Well, as you can see, and I'm sure everybody who's watching can see my excitement. I have so much respect for you, and I just would love for you at this time. For those who know Brother Hassan and Sister Naila, you already know what it is. But for those that this is your first time, watching, obviously, conversations with Asiya, or this is the first time you're hearing of this beautiful couple, I would love for you to tell them who Brother Hassan and who Sister Naila is, and why do you have the name? Why have you been dubbed the Ozzie Davis and Ruby D of Marriage Counseling?
Oh, that's the why part. Who we are. We just really started out as just a regular married couple. We did have a business idea in mind. When we got together, it wasn't this.
Right,
No,
for sure.
Oh,
this never
really?
Our radar.
never came up. We never considered it. No, I never thought I'd be working with my husband. Not like this.
Right.
Like all day.
Right. Like you said, we was actually doing something else. We had another venture in mind, and somehow or another, Naila pulled me in on this.
Okay. No, so I was working.
Mhm.
And I've been working with families for a long time, and I was hearing them. As a matter of fact, it was a specific person, and I said, the husband, he said this, and it didn't make sense to me,
Mm.
and it made sense to him. I was like, okay, that's just that was just luck, right? So time went on, and I asked again, what do you think about this? This man, he said this. And what he said made sense again. And then this is when I learned that while I went to school, spent thousands of dollars, no one taught me to speak man language.
Right.
I know what to do with clinical interventions. I know what to do with, symptoms. I know what to do with a lot of things. I know how to be empathetic, but there's some things I can't. I don't know how to translate.
Mhm.
And I said, why don't you come with me when I'm working with certain couples? If they will agree, why don't you come? And it went from there.
Mhm.
And that's
Wow.
how it started. And this is how, and I know there are many people in my industry who don't agree, but I'm Muslim, so I agree. Where, Allah says you bring one for him and one for her. They don't tell you that in grad school. That's not a part of grad school.
Mhm.
Right.
But I see the wisdom
the beauty and the wisdom behind that.
in that
Mhm.
based on our experience. And I don't really expect someone who does this professionally to be able to have that grasp and that insight, because it goes against everything that you're taught.
Really?
Yes, there's nothing clinically that says that this is how you should do counseling, or therapy, unless it's under the premise of a group.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And then you could definitely have two facilitators, but even to the extent that we're handicapped in some ways because it's two of us, we can't even bill insurance because insurance won't pay for two people.
Really?
Un- un-
Wow.
unless it's under the umbrella of group
A
therapy.
group.
And so no, it's a whole industry that totally goes against what Allah says.
Right. And I really didn't want to be involved with something that somebody's going to have me that restricted.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, yeah, you mean in the industry, your industry, they going to tell us what we can do, what we can't do, what we can build, what we can't say. And I mean, some of that is good and appropriate, but for him, too much.
That's too much.
And well, and then,
so what made you decide, Brother Hasan, to say, okay, I'm going to actually do this with my wife, being that they do and still continue to have restrictions?
Because I found a way to be unrestricted. I'm just keep it simple.
I found a way.
I found a way to be unrestricted.
We found a way to remain professional,
right,
ethical.
Right.
You know, because sometimes he comes up with ideas, and I'm like,
trust me, I know some things my husband says sometimes, and I'm like, what did you just say?
I'm like, man, look, who I ain't gonna do people give me some ethics. I'm not gonna. My ethics are Quran and Sunnah.
Right, right.
Yeah. Quran and Sunnah and professional ones and put them together.
If they mix, right? And so if they meet up, that's my thought. Now we have we kind of have two different thoughts in that, and I respect her thoughts because even in some of the things that she has said to me about certain things, I would say, well, I won't do it because you don't want me to do it.
Right.
And she said, well, it's not the right thing to do. Who says it's not the right thing to do?
You know, you and my husband would probably be best friends because it's literally, I'm listening to the two of you right now, and that's literally our conversation. He's like, well, I don't go by that. I go by what Allah says, and I go by what the Quran says. And he said, I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like,
it just missed me with that. You know
like,
what I mean?
American Counseling Association, that's who said it.
Right, exactly.
And for me, that is like whatever. You know what I mean? And so, but my love for her doesn't allow me to do certain things based upon the fact that she doesn't want to do it, and this is her code of ethics.
Right.
So
that's her
we balance each other out.
So with the two of you doing marriage counseling, do you do counseling for those that are looking to get married, those who are single and trying to, really learn who they are before entering into marriage, or is it just married couples?
No, we call it couples counseling. And you may even be an individual seeking to transition into a couple, to be a couple. So yes, and we of course we do couples, and that may mean a couple who's not married, because everyone we do is not Muslim.
Right.
Some of these people, they have commitments, but they may not have civil unions. Some people are intended, they're engaged, and then there are those who are not married, don't have anyone on the radar, but
want to get it together.
How can I get myself and transition my life from being single to unmarried
to married?
Because there's a little spot, there's a little space in there. Going from single to married, you make that flip.
How you make that room for yourself.
Exactly. So that brings me to my next question. So say someone is married, because and this is nothing against men, but I find that women are more readily ready to take on counseling, whereas men are a little more resistant to it. Do you counsel couples where or a couple where only one is taking your services and the other one may not quite be ready for that?
Well, if that's the case, then that would at that point be individual counseling. There is no way we can do couples counseling with only one
partner there
of the couple. And one of the things that I often advise, if you are coming for the intention of marriage counseling, and then you decide to do individual, not always, but very often, individual counseling will get a person to a point where they feel safe within themselves to exit the marriage. I highly advise people if you know that you are not ready for that, because we're not going to sit here, oh, okay, we just go get you ready for divorce. That is not
that's not our goal.
That's not the goal at all.
Right.
But individual counseling will very often create.
That's a consequence of individual counseling.
Mm-hmm.
You've worked on yourself individually.
Right. So there's no longer that goal of working together and trying to, infuse your lives with one another. So if I may ask, how long have you two been married?
Get it right.
About 19 years.
19 years?
No, he said 9-10 years.
Oh, 9-10 years. Wow. 9-10 years. So I know you two. I followed you for many years before, actually meeting you. I think I met Brother Hasan first, and he was at the masjid where we were getting ready to do a girls' retreat, and he was just sitting in, I think it was the area where we were getting ready to, and you were teaching a class, and that was the first time I met Brother Hasan. So in the work that you do, I know you focus a lot. I follow you, and I see a lot of the things that you post. You really focus and you really work with not only the couples, but those that are actually thinking, as you mentioned before, thinking about getting married and that whole process of looking for a mate. I would like to ask, how did you two meet? And how did you two come together?
She stalked me.
Oh,
she stalked you. Somehow I'm not going to say nothing.
He made, this is a story he's made up in his head.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to tell the truth?
Mm-mm. I told my truth.
So how did you meet, Sister Naila?
Your version of it.
I was actually planning to move, to relocate. I was in North Carolina. I planned to relocate to Georgia because my industry, they had different rules and laws.
Okay.
In Georgia that would allow me to practice the way that I wanted. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, it was like Georgia, Cali, and New York. I knew I wasn't going. I couldn't afford to go to those other two.
Yes, California, New York is so expensive. So I get you.
Mm-hmm. So okay, I'm looking for Georgia, and so of course I'm talking to people about employment, jobs, connections. And someone said, "Well, talk to him." He didn't know nothing. He didn't know.
Was that on purpose? They just wanted you to talk to him so y'all can meet each other? Or they thought that Brother Hasan knew something?
A good resource, because at that time I was actually working with Morehouse School of Medicine. Community Health and Preventive Medicine in the department. So I was actually working with them. And so, and plus doing other little things in the community, around the community, speaking engagements to men's groups, different things of that nature there. So I was assuming that this person was trying to give her a plug here in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. So after that, I was like, we kind of had some conversations.
That's what you're gonna call it.
Yeah, what you call it, babe?
Okay, so we were actually discussing work. He was like, okay, well, of course I gave him my background. And one of the things that I do well, I can build a curriculum.
Right.
I can still do that. That's one of my skill sets.
Right.
And I actually did build a curriculum for him.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
What our business idea actually was. Mm-hmm. I built the curriculum for him. And I don't know, but I remember it was the middle of the day, in the middle of the week. And he told me, I'm waiting. And I said, and I don't know what he's talking about. Oh, what are you waiting for? What you tell me? Midnight train to Georgia? Mm-hmm. Yeah, he told me you were waiting on the midnight train to Georgia. Why are you waiting on the midnight train to Georgia?
Right.
I'm waiting on you to get on it.
Oh.
I think he's flirting.
And so we kind of started having a little bit more conversation at that point. And so then I asked her, could I have access?
That was that was what he said. Right. I have access. Because before that, it was totally
professional.
Professional.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I wasn't thinking about him. You know, there were other suitors. And
Mm.
I had put everything on pause because I was in the last ring of my graduate program, and it was rough.
Oh, I can imagine.
And even those that I had considered, I was just like, look, I'm gonna be out from like September to December. If you can try not to get married, cool. But if you do, I understand.
Right. Then this is just not gonna work. Wow. So you wasn't looking for someone. Brother Hassan, were you actively looking for someone and it just so happened that Sister Naila came along, or through talking, you was like, this is the one?
Tell again.
I said he was always looking.
And so when, she said it's crazy because she said from September to December, I'm going to be offline in a sense. That's what she told apparently these other guys, these other brothers. Well, that's when we met in September.
But because he gave a different
approach.
Right. He came in the door differently, and he also helped me. I'll be honest, he helped me in a way because I wasn't supposed to be working in my program. I got mouths to feed. So I worked at night sometimes till 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning. And he would talk to me on the phone to make sure I got home safe. That's what did it.
That's what did it for you. Wow. Wow. Did you know, like a lot of times we see people, they teach something, but yet they don't necessarily live it. They're not authentic in their own personal lives as it relates to the things that they're preaching and teaching. We see that in so many different, professions. Was there standards that you had, Sister Naila, and were there standards for you, Brother Hassan, where you knew in your selection of someone that you were interested in potentially marrying, these were certain standards that they had to abide by and you did not budge? And so I'll ask that of Sister Naila first, and then Brother Hassan, I'll ask you.
You mean in regard to what it was that I was expecting of a potential husband? Things
right, and things that, when speaking to Brother Hassan, maybe there was a conversation and you were like, this is a non-negotiable for me.
Oh, yeah, we almost split.
Really?
Didn't get married over it, and it's actually covering.
So was it that you were covering or that you weren't covering?
I've always covered. That wasn't the issue, but it was how. Idea of how, and if you were familiar with me at all, my how.
Right.
What it's gonna look like. I try to make sure that I always cover certain things. I want to have my neck covered. I wanted my ears covered, But he was accustomed to,
this standard look that I have right now.
Let me tell you, I'm Salafi. Okay. So I had a thought, coming through what a woman's supposed to cover and what she's supposed to look like.
See, and I may wear what you have on and then put a cowboy hat on.
Right. And I do the same thing. I have pictures where I have hats and, French berets on, and So you had an issue with that, Brother Hassan?
Yeah, I mean, because it was a little bit more loose than my taste at that point, right? And so we had a conversation, and this is what made me think, okay, this sister might be all right, because after she done went through her moment, you know what I mean, she actually came back and we had a discussion about it.
About what needed to be covered.
What needed to be covered.
Versus the how.
Right.
What are your requirements? And we agreed on that.
Oh, and we agreed on that. And so we were able to find out where we agreed versus where we were stuck in disagreeing.
Right. Or what was a preference. It was what was required. And as long as those requirements were met.
And for me, my thought was, look, long as you give Allah his rights, I'm gonna be cool.
Right.
And I mean, because at that point, that's the baseline. As long as you give Allah his rights, whatever my preference is, I have to work that out.
Right. Exactly. I know what you mean.
I
So,
think
so
that was
go ahead, Miss Naila.
that was the main one before marriage. The others
To
happened
happen after marriage, right? The other one after marriage, right?
And
And
so what's
that was a clothing issue too, wasn't it? That one,
Yes.
yeah.
I mean, but not, we had clothing issues, we had money issues, we
Yeah,
had food issues.
right? Oh yeah,
food issues?
yeah. Well, that kind of got a little deeper because, as you know, one of the things that we understand in Islam, you never know a person till you live with them, eat with them, try.
Travel with them? Mm-hmm.
And so now we're doing this. And now we're finding out more about, she's finding out more about me. I'm finding out more about her. And it's like, whoo, God, man, I mean, we both kind of start. And I think she started first looking at me with the side eye, like, how did I get here? Right. And,
Yeah. So wait, hold on one second, brother. So did you have moments, Naila, that you questioned, was this a good decision?
I said it. I do not know how in the wine, and I'm sorry, baby, but I said, I don't know how I got here with you.
Really? So okay, so I wanna get back to that, but I want to ask Brother Hassan, was there something that you had aside from clothing that you knew going into this selection process of selecting a mate, that there were just certain requirements, non-negotiables for you, that you knew in seeing Sister Naila that she fit the bill, or didn't?
well, I mean, because and I think this is kind of arrogant of me saying this, right? But I automatically felt like she was going to have some issues, right?
Really?
Yeah, I walked into again, you got to remember, I have a whole nother, mentality, minhaj going here. I have a whole nother mentality at that time.
Right.
And he still has it.
Well, I mean,
he lives it differently now.
Right. Mm-hmm. And so, but what happened is, and and granted, I was actually in transition with certain about it then too, right? And so, but I automatically felt like, okay, she ain't on this. Mm-hmm. She gonna have some issues, but maybe I can work with her.
So you felt you was gonna be able to change her?
No, it's not so much as the change, because I saw a conservative aspect of certain. She loves Dean.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? She, in my opinion, knows Dean. Some of the conversations that we had, I mean, I'm not a scholar or anything, but some of the conversations we were having, I know, or I felt she knew.
Either I knew or I knew better.
I knew better.
So in knowing that, in selecting you two, Naila said, after getting married, she felt like, how did I get here? How did this happen? Did you feel that way too?
I think that had to be put in context though, because what she come to find out is that I was a little bit more urban than she thought.
Oh.
He's ghetto.
Right.
Oh, okay. So did you feel the same way? Brother Hassan, did you feel the same way about Naila? Was there a moment?
I felt like she was country bougie. I thought she was I thought she was melodramatic. You know what I mean?
I'm a Southern belle.
Yeah, and I ain't understand that. Okay, I'm gonna tell you what I said. I thought she was fake.
Really? And now this is after marriage?
Yeah.
Wow. So being that you are marriage counselors, and I know this, I mean, me and my husband, we're only 9 months married, and we, most of the time, we get along, right? It's great. And then, because as you mentioned, now living with each other, you have different nuances that doesn't sometimes complement one another, and you're trying to adjust to different personalities and what someone's accustomed, culture, everything. So it's a process. So being that you went through the process and now you're 9-10 years in, how did you work that out? How did you work out, being ghetto and Southern belle and melodramatic and, different beliefs? Like, how did you work that out to be able, because a lot of people today can't even get past 2-3 years of marriage. And here you are going on a decade or a decade. How were you able to manage that, being marriage counselors yourselves? How were you able to manage that?
Well, I mean, for me, you know, I also understood that, okay, let me see her, because obviously I'm making a judgment based upon certain things. I'm making a judgment. And she's judging me and I'm judging her, right? I wanted to know where it came from. Then I felt like I can get a better understanding of it if I knew where this came from.
Versus saying it's wrong.
Right. And so once I was able to actually ascertain where it actually came from, I got to see certain things. Then I was like, dang.
It was like the light bulb went off.
Right. There's a bunch of y'all like this. You know what I mean?
When he was my family.
Right.
He was like, oh my God, there are more of
y'all. You know?
Now I know where she gets this from.
Oh my God. Okay.
Wow.
Now
I'm actually at a lower level
of it, you know. And then when she actually was able to meet some of my people, and then she was like, okay, now I see what's happening. You
right.
know?
And if in regard to food, there were a couple of layers there. I'm 4'11". I used to weigh 247 pounds. So my eating habits are very, very important to me.
Right.
I'm very conscious of what I do and don't eat. I'm not a health nut. I just had a cookie. But I'm very conscious of it. And he wasn't. And even the suitor that I had dismissed because of his eating habits, because this is such a value for me. I mean, I could die. I mean, that's serious.
So this is life or death for you.
Yes, it is that serious for me. So I need to be with someone where we're compatible, even in the kitchen. And so that was a problem. And then it was even more a problem because he had health issues himself. And I'm like, why are you feeding your body this way? I don't want to be a wife. I don't want to be a widow.
Wow, that's powerful what you just said. Wow.
And so this is not going to work out for either of us. The other thing is that I learned that his upbringing was coming through. There was some childhood poverty. And it was coming up.
I understand that. Yeah.
And it came out in food consumption and, and purchases and things.
Right.
I watched for a while because, I'm a therapist, but my husband, so I still have to look at this with wife eyes. And so I watched for a while. And then I still remember the day I had you do the assessment. Because I really thought that I was seeing some childhood things come up. And it was. It was exactly what it was that I believed it to be. But I told him, this is what I see, but I'm your wife. I'm not here to help you. You got to go somewhere else for that. But who knew? He didn't know that. I don't think Hassan would have been able to say that, when it comes to a lifestyle eating habits, that you and I are not going to work out well because I have issues that deal with my childhood exposure to poverty. He didn't even know. He didn't even know anything like that even existed.
Exactly.
So he didn't know how it was coming up in his own life.
Right.
Now he knew to his health, but he didn't know what it was doing to his own life.
Wow. So did this require the two of you, and is this something that you counsel your clients? Did it require you having to have sometimes those difficult conversations that a lot of people choose to run away or ignore because they really don't want to confront it? And was that your situation and you confronted it? And is that what you counsel your clients?
Yes. Difficult conversations, particularly now, are not necessarily difficult
for us.
neither of us are afraid of having a hard
Conversation.
conversation. One of the things, and this is also something that we know from the Sunnah, one of the things that we always have to be aware of based on our personalities is timing.
Mhm.
Timing is very, very important, and that's something that we learn from Islam.
Mhm.
But in regard to actually having the conversation, no. Now, before, years ago, because I used to tell Hassan, you believe that you are very easy to talk to, and you're not. Tell him the whole time.
Yeah.
Because there were so many people who came to him
Right.
for advice. But one of the things I would point out to him, I want you to be mindful that when they come to you, they don't do a lot of talking because you're
Right.
talking. Wow.
And also what I find too is it's in marriage sometimes when you have a spouse that is giving advice, it's usually people are coming to that person and you're addressing that person's issues. It's nothing of your own. So there's a level of, not, I wouldn't say detachment, but there is.
There
Right.
is.
It is.
When someone is coming to you and actually pointing out certain things that maybe you either, as you mentioned before, didn't even realize that this was something that is being displayed,
Mhm.
or it hit, as the kids say, it hit different because it's about you. That easy to talk to, sometimes you're not easy to talk to because now it is an attachment that's involved because it's you. And sometimes when it's you, you're not that easy to talk to, or you come across very, very different than you would to your clients or friends that are asking for advice. So I totally, totally get that. So speaking about difficult conversations, I'm going to get into this piece of the discussion that I remember, and we all know Brother Shadid and his wife. You two do the marriage retreats, or you used to do the marriage retreats pre-COVID. You were
Right.
very active in doing the marriage retreats, and I remember there was, I think Brother Shadid was recording a particular piece of it, and I remember it was Brother Hassan that was speaking, and it was before I met the two of you. And it was a very emotional piece that Shadid just so happened to capture. And it was Brother Hassan talking about when he lost his eyesight or started to lose his eyesight. And it was the first day that you had to be alone in the house. So, talking about difficult conversations, Brother Hassan, I would like for you to share with the viewers who are watching, what has that journey been like for you? And then Sister Hassan, I would like for you to share, how has that experience been for you, and how has your conversations been able to draw you together? Because people, we see marriages breaking up for the most minute things. This is something so serious, and y'all are still together strong. I would love to hear, and I think the viewers would like to hear, Brother Hassan, how has that journey been for you? Coming from someone who had sight and now you don't. How was that as a man, and how was that as a husband, as a father? How has that been for you?
Well, it's still a transition, because I still know what it feels like to have sight. So, and sometimes, you have to take the days as they come. Um, you know,
Take your time, baby.
It's okay. It's okay. Take your time, Brother Hassan. Take your time.
um, you know, um, go ahead. Go ahead. I apologize.
No, you don't need to apologize. Not at all.
To apologize for. I mean, there are days like this.
Right. Right. So there are some days that I hear Brother Hassan talk about it, and then there are days like today, a little more difficult. So obviously this journey is still a journey.
Right. I remember small thing, and this is something that family did. I was so mad. And it was one It was somebody's birthday in the family. I don't even remember who. And they had made the sweetest video and sent it to him. And we were actually traveling
Mm-hmm.
uh, for some event. I don't even remember where we were. And they sent it to him. And he opens it up. He's excited and he can't see it. And this is family. These are people who I know.
Right.
And helping him through the moment of being happy about whatever the celebration was, but not being able to see it and knowing that he used to and now he can't. And then, yeah, I was frustrated. I was like, why would you send this to
Okay.
I mean, we have to find another way, some audio files,
Right.
because this method,
It's
this is
not working.
not going to work anymore. We're, as a family unit, we cannot do this. And not
Mm-hmm.
only is it hurtful to him, now I'm in the position of trying to console him. I can't. I don't know how to console this. I don't know how to console him and tell him you have seen the last of the family celebration with your own eyes. I don't have anything for that. And so in getting through it, so one thing is that I can get, when I say get Hasan ready, I'll tell you what that means in a minute. I can do what I can to assist Hasan with his transition. But then I got all these other people around us that need to be transitioned as
With it.
well. Right. And so when I say get him ready, I'm a social worker.
Right.
And there are millions of blind people in the world and you don't see them. Why? Because they hide.
Right.
And I
Right.
decided you are not going to live that life. You are going to set yourself up as if I do not exist.
Mm.
Find out everything out there that is available. Now, it didn't take us long because guess what? There ain't a lot available. So we didn't have to do too much research.
Right.
But once we did, the ball got rolling. This place will lead you to this place, and this place will lead you to this place. But I did everything I could to make it so in this world, in this world, and I mean particularly in our home,
Right.
he feels safe here. He feels comfortable here. He can maneuver. Um, that and he could take the train to his doctor's appointment. I mean, yeah, he did come home one day and tell me about how he fell on the track.
Mm.
I remember the day I'm driving up the street and I see him fall right in the middle of this 4-lane highway. And of course, he doesn't even know that I'm there. And these are all the parts of life, that happen. And afterwards, you still gotta go get in session, and you still gotta respond to those calls, and you still have to, deal with those things.
Mm-hmm.
It I say he'll open the door for me, but he can't drive the car.
Right.
There are so many things that people take for
For granted.
they take for granted. And I don't believe that we have less to take for granted because he doesn't have his sight, but I'm more appreciative, of everything that he is able to do.
And I guess I'm say certain things, but the loss of the sight, because I connected, obviously not realizing it, I connect a lot of my faculties, being able to walk, talk, breathe, see, hear, touch. I connected all that to manhood too. And so not having my eyes, I felt incompetent in a sense.
How do you connect that to manhood?
Because if I can't do certain things, I need to see to be able to do certain things. If I can't do certain things, then I feel like I'm less than a man.
Mm.
Okay,
Understand.
but
You trying to rationalize, you trying to make sense out of it now. I'm just telling you where I'm at.
okay, so you probably know what I would get ready to say.
Right. You trying to make sense out of it. And
Right.
your
And
sense.
I get, and it kind of goes with what you just said, Sister Naila. Like, he can open up the door for you, but he can't drive you. He can't drive the car. And I believe, if I'm understanding you, Brother Hassan, that's one of the things that you felt as a man. I want to take my wife out. I'm
I
a
mean, I
drive.
would do. I mean, I was kind of, I was a go getter, in my opinion.
Right.
Before this, I mean, I do a lot of things. I try to make things happen, right? And I didn't have to. One of the things that I've often prided myself on, unfortunately, is that I'm not asking nobody to do nothing for me.
Mm-hmm.
Now my life is almost completely, totally reliant on other people.
Right.
I.e. my family, obviously, but I really don't like that.
But at the same token, we deliberately, I guess he's not gonna like this. We deliberately don't do things so that you can do it for yourself.
Well, I mean, yeah, and I mean, I get that, and I'll be like, whatever, and so I know at the end of the day, the things that I believe are most important are things that they're going to have to help me do.
Right.
But at the same token, though, one of the things that I still held him accountable for was, okay, you can't see, but I take this to be a man duty. You don't have to do it, but you need to make sure it gets done.
Mm-hmm.
So if you use my son, if you call another brother, if you pay someone, I don't really care, but you are the man, you need to handle that.
So in doing that, is that where you feel sometimes the struggle, because you're used to just doing it on your own, but knowing that that is a responsibility of yours and still having to figure that out? Is that the moments where it's difficult for you?
Yeah, I mean, because I don't, for me, I just feel like I'm not, a lot of times I feel like, well, sometimes the confidence is shattered.
Mm.
Right. And I won't necessarily say shattered, but the confidence go low.
Right. Right.
So then I have to kind of regroup and try to get to where I can find myself, well, spiritually,
Mm-hmm.
to be able to, okay, I'm going to get through this.
Right.
I'm going to get
So,
through this.
so I want to ask you, Brother Hassan, and then I'm going to pose a second question for both of you. Being that, as you just mentioned, your confidence was shaken, from the loss of your sight, was there ever a moment that you felt it was better for Sister Naila to walk away?
I don't think she would have done that.
Right.
Right. But there's times that I thought about walking away.
You said it, but you said it to me.
Mm-hmm. I thought about just leaving and, everybody do what they want to do. I thought about that.
He would say, that blind man sitting in income control housing that you don't want me to be. Y'all just go on and just let me be him. And I'll get some hired help to come in and help do things for me. I can get a nursing assistant to come in and just leave me be. And I'm like, whatever, man.
Mm-hmm. So being that those things have said, and that's why I said these are things that some other couples may have just did just that, walked away from the situation because it was just too much to deal with. When, for you, so this question now is for you, Naila, was there ever a moment, was it at the time that you found out that your husband was losing his sight, or later on in him making statements like that, did you have an intentional thought in your mind that we gonna see this to the end?
It was always working to that in action. We're going to see this to the end, because no one, neither of us ever acted out or put any effort toward a divorce. Up here, did it ever cross my mind? Yes.
Right. But
I mean, now don't get this wrong. We done had arguments, and you know what? You just divorced.
that's being a married couple.
But that had nothing to do with the eyesight, though.
Talk to me like that.
Yeah, just being a married couple, right?
You know what I mean?
It was just regular couples
stuff. Right.
I can go. I tell you what, I can go. I ain't got to put up with this.
I got to deal with this, right? Exactly. I got options.
Right. Yeah, nothing to do with the eyesight.
Only thing wrong with my eyes is every time I look up, I see you.
Right.
Yeah.
So how has this journey been for you two? Because I'm watching you two. Like I said, I follow you. I see the work that you're continuously doing, and you're doing it together. How has this journey been with everything that has happened and where you are now? How do you feel as far as when you first got married to now? Is it where you feel like this is a bond that is just, we've been tested we've been tested, and, our bond is stronger than ever, whereas others, it may have broken them. Do you feel that your bond is even stronger than you could have even imagined?
I'm just thankful to Allah, that, He has tried us, but He hasn't tried us with certain other things.
Right.
And so we've had our test in more than one way. Mm-hmm. In my opinion, there are things that we learn early, because a lot of this transition actually happened early in our relationship.
Wow. What year was it? Because you've been married now 10 years.
We started some of this stuff like in year 1.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because there was a transition even from her coming from where she lived, coming here. There's that transition. Then there's a transition of me starting the loss of the eyesight.
There was the transition to a level of brokenness I had never experienced in my life.
For yourself, or or Brother Hasan?
No, financially.
Oh, I feel you, sis. When I came into entrepreneurship my second year, I was like, maybe this wasn't a good idea.
Yeah.
By the time we were broke entrepreneurs, we were hopeful.
Right.
We learned to be hopeful at that point. But when he lost he hadn't lost it yet. The decline of his sight also meant the decline of work options.
Right.
And then the things that were being offered to him. I mean, seriously, you can do this training and you can work at Goodwill. And Hassan's like, Naila, please don't let them make me count clothes hangers at Goodwill.
MashaAllah.
Naila, please don't let them put me on that medical bus. Please promise me you'll take me.
I still haven't caught that bus.
I know that's right. Like, I ain't getting on that bus.
Getting on it. I'm not getting on it.
I know that's right.
No, I'm not getting that. Not.
So you have children. Do you have children together, or was it from previous marriages? And how has that been? With the transitions that you've had, how has that been for your children?
My children basically only know a low-sighted Hassan. A low sight to no sight. Of course, his children, from the earlier marriage, they definitely know that part of him. And these are the family members that also had to go through the transition.
Right.
Sighted Hassan to low sight to no sight. So they went through their own things.
They had to learn some things too.
Right, I'm sure.
I was going. they were used to seeing me move a certain way.
Right.
And then I'm not moving that way anymore. And they trying to figure out what's wrong with him.
What's wrong with him?
And then having to learn how to adjust to, the new norm, as we say, is the new norm. Do you use your transitions from moving to financial hardship to, loss of sight, all of the different transitions that you've been tested in marriage? Do you use that as kind of like testimonies, that you share with your clients in looking at taking things for granted and how you can get through those things? Do you do that?
Depending on what a couple has going on, if you work with us, we're a lot more transparent. People think, oh, you share so much of your lives on social media. Not really.
Wow. Okay.
I'm like, you know us off screen. So even you know some information
right
about us that
other people don't know.
Other people don't know because you're in a part of our circle that other people may not be privy to. But yes, one of the things that is very important to me, this is a value that I have, and it is something that I believe has been a blessing for us as a couple and as a business, is authenticity.
Yes, absolutely.
I remember working in a program years ago, right out of college. I worked in a program. Oh, I can't even think of the name of the program. It's just that long ago now. But at the Housing Authority in Durham, North Carolina. And the program was designed to get single parents within public housing and putting them in training programs. So we had other things, so support resources for them. But I remember going to work and limping because my husband at that time pushed me in the bathroom, and I had this ugly black and one of those purple bruises on my leg. And I remember sitting at work that day and hurting, but I was hurt more here.
Inside.
So hypocritical that I'm sitting here supposed to be an example to these women. And here I am sitting here just hours ago having been abused in my own marriage. And I'll be honest, it wasn't even my own house. We were living in a hotel. And I remember saying, I had no idea what the future was going to look like. But I never wanted what I wanted, what I had here in my head and what I had in my life
to be not aligned.
That disconnected.
Wow. I know, yes.
Don't ever want this. That felt worse than
the actual abuse.
Exactly.
So I know exactly what you mean. I know exactly what you mean. I went through the same thing. I remember the first couple of years in doing my organization, Jessica Cares, I was in a very toxic relationship. This was prior to me becoming Muslim. And I remember I literally used to say, I'm going to pour everything that I wish I was into the girls and live almost vicariously through them until that became unbearable. And it was like, what are you doing? Yeah, it just cannot be done. So empowerment starts with you, and then you share that authentically, like you mentioned. Wow. So being that you share with those that may be thinking about counseling, or in a transition period themselves in marriage, maybe thinking about getting married and not quite sure, what they should be looking for in a marriage mate or within each other if they've already met one another. Like, are we compatible? What services do you provide? And where can they find you?
Okay, you can always find us at www.thatclaycouple.com. That part right there. In regard to services, as long as it's not pedophilia, let's talk.
Let's talk, right.
That's pretty much like the one thing that for us is hands off.
That's right.
Other than that, so it's couples counseling. Of course, it's mental health.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes people are battling with gender identity.
Mm-hmm.
Then there are those who have had prior experiences with the same sex
Sex.
lifestyle and
Mm-hmm.
want to do something else and still have the things going on in their
That
head,
conflict. Mm-hmm.
the head and their heart, because there are so many people who have the desires but don't act on them.
Right.
But
Right.
it can be a battle to have the desires, and
Absolutely.
a safe place for a spiritual person to go and say that. Can you tell that to the imam?
No. Right.
You may not
Right.
be able to
Without the
say
judgment.
you may not be
Right.
able to say that to
Mm-hmm.
the imam. And then there's premarital. We'll work with you individually on getting married. We work
Mm-hmm.
with parenting. I counsel teens. Every now and then we do have a teen young man to come through.
Mm-hmm.
Hassan does him. I have a couple of teen ladies
Mm-hmm.
that I work with. So we run the gamut. I mean, we're a counseling agency.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful.
And that's one thing I want people to also understand too. You know, yeah, Hasan-Naaila, that clay couple, has a quote unquote, you know, brand, but we are a counseling agency. You know, so we strongly believe in mental health and good mental health and what that looks like, even within our community.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love it. That's why I have so much respect for you because you do. You know, you actually run it professionally. Like this is what we stand for. You know, yes, it's a brand, but we really have a passion for mental health, healthy relationships.
Mm-hmm.
So with that being said, for those that, you know, they may live somewhere else and like, oh, I can't get to them, or financially, maybe I can't afford, I don't have insurance, whatever the situation is, you kind of opened up a door for some of those, which is a huge thing that you just recently did, which is, and I know you have it in your hand, Naila. So tell everybody what the clay couple just brought on and what brought this book on. What was behind you writing this book, the two of you?
Is something we just gave birth to recently, but
Yes.
we started it in 2015,
Mm-hmm.
and it sat for a long time because we had to go blind and then learn how to be blind and then raise teenagers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, dealing with sick relatives, my
Mm-hmm.
mother's dementia, um, not having any money. So a lot of things happened while these pages were sitting.
Right.
And the last
Oh no.
chapters remained undone. And that was all that was left. And life had actually mellowed out a bit. Well,
Mm-hmm.
and COVID happened.
And COVID happened.
Right. And COVID happened. Exactly. Yes.
I was like, why wouldn't I finish the last two chapters?
Well, and which, to be honest with you, we actually kicked up even more business during COVID.
No, I know. Yes, yes. As an entrepreneur, the same thing happened to me.
Right. We got a little bit more intense during COVID,
Yeah.
as far as the workload was concerned.
Well, you know, relationships, people are stuck with each other now. So it's like, look, we need some help. I'm learning some things.
We actually start looking for their own individual goals that they were trying to make instead of having these so-called New Year's resolutions. They actually are trying to work on some things. And I like to say this. I know Naila's getting ready to go back into what she was saying, but this whole Zoom thing and everything everybody is doing now,
Virtual world.
Right. We were doing this long before it was the thing to do.
Right.
We have been doing telehealth for some years.
So it was a normal.
So this was
just another transition. This transition was much easier for you, right?
It was regular life for us. It was just more of it.
More of it.
And also in regard to the upswing during COVID, sure, you had couples that are now home and with one another. The other part of that was people no longer could go to their typical distractions.
Right. Right.
Can't spend 60 hours at work anymore. Can't go to the bar anymore. A lot of the things that they use to cope with their discomforts in life, be they healthy or unhealthy, they were gone. And so now here I am in the house having to deal with myself. And oh my God, I can't. And so yes, things definitely increased for us. But
so for those who don't know about the book, what is the name of this book and what is the book about?
This is Selection Perfection, a rock solid premarital guide for you. I almost chuckled because I'm thinking of what I went through to come up with this title. Okay, no, taking out one word, adding one. And what this is actually our premarital course. We designed a premarital course that meets the requirements for the state of Georgia a couple of years ago. However, it did very well. We got I'm not saying this because I'm proud of it, right? We got our first divorce that we recommended last year.
So wait, before you get into that, what are your statistics as far as those that you counsel that have gotten divorced and the statistics of those that have stayed together through your counseling, and then continue?
Okay. For premarital, we have a 99.5% success rate. And for preventing separation and or divorce, we're at I think it's 97.3. It may even be higher than that now because we work with more couples since we did the numbers. But that was the last ratio that we had, 97.3. So if you will follow our recommendations, if you're willing to do the work, we can definitely get you to a place where you can stave off divorce and have more of the marriage that the two of you have said that you want to have with one another. However, at the same token, we are not anxious or reluctant to tell a couple, y'all need to separate. Sometimes you want to get the marriage that you want, but it won't be with each other.
Right. Wow. Now talk about difficult conversation.
Right. So this is our course put in a book. We understand that everyone's not going to do the course. We have two options. You can work with us. You can do the self-guided course. And some people are just not going to do it. There are those who can't afford it. And we've been really trying to look for ways. How can people get a piece of the Ossie and Ruby D without working with us one-on-one?
One-on-one.
The other thing is we realize every soul shall taste death. We have to leave something.
That's right.
And here we go.
That's it.
We were hoping that legacies will be able to use this. So this is our book modification of our
premarital course.
And
it's not premarital advice, it's our premarital counseling. It's premarital course.
Right.
So now there's exercises in the book and everything, because I know I got mine, so that's why I'm just kind of throwing some stuff out there.
So
thank you for supporting, as always.
But it is okay. And I'm gonna read this one. We have this chapter here on non-negotiables, but then afterwards, this is my honorable list of non-negotiables in marriage. And to give you an example of what that means, we always think that non-negotiables mean what is sinful. Don't hit me. Don't use drugs. Don't commit adultery.
Right.
Don't
steal.
That's true. That is what Allah says.
Right.
After that, there are some other things that all of us have that we would prefer to be treated in a certain way. Now, for example, Hasan, There are certain words that he just doesn't want you to say to him. Some you shouldn't say anyway.
Right.
There's
I totally get it.
tonality. I'm loud. I'm country. And sometimes I can be loud. And sometimes it's
Hmm.
loud for him. Why are you shouting? You know, because he
Oh
takes,
my God. My husband says the same thing. And I'm like, am I? I thought I was talking normal.
and then sometimes because he's made me aware of it, I say, woo, I'm loud, aren't I? Aren't
Mm.
I? What?
My husband does this when I'm talking loud. He goes, he'll make that gesture. I'm like, oh, I'm talking loud. Oh, okay.
But he takes that as a form of disrespect.
Right.
That
I'm
really
the same way.
he can't take. So I have
Right.
to be mindful of that. While he
And
also
based on different experiences too, some things we went through as a child that are triggers for us, and another person may with, I always relate it to intention versus impact. Sometimes your intention doesn't match the impact, and knowing each other, that really helps. Like, oh, I didn't realize that when I did that, that triggered you because of something that happened, in your childhood. So there's actually a comment in one of the viewers asked, he said, can you speak a little about talking to each other versus at each other?
want to respond.
Yeah, I take a shot at it. Well, and kind of give an example. I like to give an example of that. I had a client today, a couple that I had to deal with today. They were talking at each other, they was talking at each other, meaning they were trying to swap narratives and they was doing a tit for tat. And so in essence, what they were doing is not being able to listen. When they saying talk to me, not at me, what one needs to be able to do is also listen.
Right.
And not just wait.
And not just wait to talk.
But actually hear where the person is saying, to get, as you was talking about earlier, the understanding
Right.
of where that person is coming from.
At least to get the understanding. Now, can there be when someone's saying you talking at me, can there be some tonality that needs to change? Sure. Should the delivery change? Sure. So there are a combination of several different things going on. One, change the tonality. I don't have to really sugarcoat. I can still talk firm, but be respectful.
Right.
And tonality is one of the key things, just lowering your voice. Because I can say, I don't know what you was thinking. And then I can say, I don't know what you were thinking. It totally changes the vibe.
And the reception is different.
Exactly. Right. The person translates it differently. But even to, I think we all kind of can figure out what someone talking at you would be for you. So right. The questioner, I want to be a bit more specific about talking to each other. Mm-hmm. So what that would look like is Asa would share something with me. And then I would say, okay, so this is what I believe I heard you say, and I'm going to repeat it so I make sure I get it. All right, so is that what you said? Is that what you meant? And he'll let me know whether or not I got it right or wrong. And then, still not finished. Okay, so tell me, for what reason is that so important to you? Mm-hmm. And I'll give you a bigly example.
Bigly.
A small, huge example. We had an issue one night over, was it the oatmeal raisin cakes? Over a box of Little Debbie.
Raisin cake. No, it's not such thing as oatmeal raisin. It was raisin cake. Baby.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay. See, he still remember his cake.
He's like, we're going to get it right this time.
It was the Little Debbie raisin cakes, and we had an issue with it. And because, remember, I told you, there were some elevated food concerns because of the child poverty. And at that point, we did know. Mm-hmm. And I saw that there was a principle for him being violated in that issue. Mm-hmm. And it was not about the food. And I let it go.
So also learning how to let things go is a way of avoiding talking at someone.
Right, because I knew that there was an issue that was bigger than those snack cakes.
Right, right.
And because I know that, I'm going to be kind and empathetic towards this issue. Now, does he still need to address the issue? Sure. It's just not going to get addressed in this moment.
Right.
And
So that's the timing that you were talking about earlier.
Right. And so asking the other person, why is that so important to you? Okay, so I'm loud and I know sometimes my voice gets elevated. Tell me, you know I'm not fussing, I'm not cussing. So tell me, for what reason does that irk you so much? That's talking to each other.
Right.
Now I'm finding out, oh, it reminds you of whatever
it is, right?
Oh, okay. I don't want to remind you of that.
Right.
Right.
So now I have an understanding and an insight. People don't take conversations that far.
Right.
They just take it on face value. You said it. I didn't like the way you said it, and that's where we're gonna go.
Right. Surface level. And so, and then I also look at when someone says talking at me as if I'm your child. And
so also that tone, talking like you're talking to a child.
Exactly. And the tone and how you are addressing me and the manner or the word choice that you're using and how you're addressing me, it may be demeaning.
You know, one of the things that I learned early on, you know, when working with parents, telling them when you talk to your children, of course, watch your tonality. And regardless of how, especially with smaller children, so you say you're talking to a 5-year-old, you go down to their eye level and you speak to them. It's not just for kids.
That's for adults as well.
Adults like it as well. Adults want you to speak to them a certain way. Like I'm on my phone a lot. But let's say one of my kids come in the room. I intentionally and very intentionally, and I turn my whole body.
So you give that undivided attention to that person.
Yes.
I love it. I love it.
And this is a way that we talk to each other. If I say, you know, Hasan, can you listen? He will literally
turn. And that's talking to each other now. That's a way of talking to each other. I love it.
She just put a request in to be able to speak to me.
Right.
Something. So I have to return the gesture or reciprocate by saying, okay, let me see what it is that she needs.
That she wants the attention, right? Wants my attention for. Beautiful.
They're still doing what I'm doing. That's not, you know, acknowledging or validating that she has a concern.
I mean, I can't even see if I'm on my phone, and he'll still ask me if he's talking to me. Are you on your phone? Because
wow. Okay. Yeah.
He still wants to know that he has the respect. That he wants to know, Naila, do I have your attention? Don't just pretend.
Right.
Give me your attention.
Right. And talk to me. Talk with me. Right.
Your hand, you know. And I'm like,
yeah, he does. He'll reach and try to
find your hand. Like, do you have that phone in your ear? I heard that. There's another question, really quick. Brother asked, also, can you give the brothers advice that when it comes to dealing with your wife as a woman and understanding that her needs and desires don't solely depend on us as the man of the house?
I mean, the idea here is okay, I like doing this. Maybe I'm going to change it a little bit. For what reason would a person not look at their wife as their partner? And if you look at your wife as your partner, then you know that your contribution is no less than her contribution. And so I think what happens is that attitude actually leads to a sense of arrogance.
And she's going to respond to you that way.
Exactly. And so if you are able to, okay, break down and think, you're important here. I want you to know that you're important here. I can't do this without you. I can't have this marriage without you.
Right.
Get more out of me.
Right.
But if it is set up where I have to rely on him, I have to get, of course you want to get your husband's opinion and you want to have his approval on things.
Yeah.
However, also knowing that there's a space in the marriage and in the home for me to be a whole adult as well. And if there's not, do we really want to be in a union and in a house with someone where I'm not treating you as a whole adult, and then as a result, I don't get a whole adult? I don't want 25% of you.
I want 100% of you.
Right. I want the benefit of all of you. And I think, and I know the brother, he asked this in regard to men and women, but for all of us to be mindful, even for sisters, if you treat your husband a certain way and he feels reduced in the home, you'll get less of a man.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Of a partner.
Right.
Less of what it is that you even trying to get. Getting something that's unhealthy, you even getting less of the unhealthy.
Exactly. That is any of this, like some of the questions that the viewers are asking, is some of this covered in your book, Selection Perfection?
Yes.
Oh, wonderful. So where can they get the book if they want to get this book, start doing the work, and as Iyanla Vanzant says, do your work? How can they get the book? Where can they find it?
Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to send you the link, and I think that you can put it up there, right?
Yeah, I can put it up there.
Okay. Because we've had couples purchase.
You're right. We've had couples purchase this book.
And
now, can you get the book on Amazon?
Yes, and I'm going to be able to give you that as well. Couples have purchased it and have said, okay, this told me what it was for that reason. I'm saying something and reading his question at the same time. This is how it benefits couples.
Somebody asked a question.
Yes, okay. This is how it benefits couples is that there are very few people who are married who actually did this work before they got married. And so now they're in their marriage doing this. We literally have people who've been married 5, 6, 10 years, and we are giving them parts of our premarital course.
Of course.
Wow. They never discussed.
They never discussed. They never found out even about themselves and how their expectations really impacts them before they even got into a marriage. And now they're in a marriage trying to exert their expectations or get their expectations.
And they're mad because it's not happening.
Because it's not happening, which is the first, level of disappointment is because those expectations were not discussed or expressed, articulated, a meeting of the minds, all of that.
And the way and the reason why they were not articulated, because they didn't know how to address their own expectations.
Absolutely.
And they didn't even know what they were actually bringing to the table to even to say why this is important, what this standard and what this value means to me.
People get
go ahead.
People get caught up in superficial things. So I was the only child. You were an only child too. Wow. I didn't know we had that in common. Okay, we were both only children in a 2-parent household. But my household, we had certain structure.
Right.
We had certain beliefs. We had certain traditions. And your household, you didn't have them. And so what did that look like? Okay, in my house, we ate dinner every day at the same time.
Right.
Saturday, as a matter of fact, except because on Saturday, I was raised Christian. On Saturday, my mother was cooking for Sunday because she didn't work on Sunday because that was the Lord's day.
Right. That was a day of rest.
It was a day of rest.
Right.
We ate meals together all the time. How grow up that way? So taking meals together is important. You know,
Right. Mm-hmm.
like it's important to me if the children, they're not children, but if the kids are awake, to leave the door open.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Just won't be able to hear and to see. And I remember we first got married and he would shut the bedroom door, for the sake of privacy. I
Mm-hmm.
All right, if we're about to go to bed, we're gonna go to sleep. I get it. Or if I get it. It makes sense. But if we have teenagers going through,
Right. We got to hear.
I need my door open.
I know, I know. So I want to, as we're getting ready to wrap this beautiful conversation up, do you, with COVID and virtual, since you've already been doing virtual, how, do you have any upcoming events that are happening? Any regarding, couples or those looking to get married? Do you have anything coming up?
With you, we have our virtual book signing at the end of this month,
Yes.
and in May, we will be doing. We try to keep our Mondays open for classes, and we'll be doing a couples class in May on Monday, and somewhere between the next 3 to 6 months, we'll be putting out our monthly subscription for. It's for individuals. It's one for individuals and one for couples as well. So we have things on the spectrum. Our key thing here is just making this platform and this information accessible to people as
Right.
much as possible. Everyone is not going to sit down with us in a counseling session, but there are so
Right.
many ways to get this information out, to be able, just one piece, a little piece, something that
And that
makes
can make so much of a difference.
a difference, that can click for
Yes.
a couple. And that's our goal, to give them access to the information, because that's another issue that we have, particularly within not just the Muslim community, but within faith communities,
Indeed.
is
Absolutely.
access. We always think, well, we have to go to a professional. Okay, that's fine, but you also want to go somewhere where your faith is going to be honored.
And and Naila keeps forgetting to say this, and I want to say this because I've seen the work that has taken place in this group. She has a group called Worthy Women's Serving Wins, right? And I guess there's a membership to this group, and I've seen some of the remarkable things that this group has done with some of these women. I think you have what? How many people in this group?
Well, there are people who are in the course.
Right.
There's the course.
Right.
And then there are people that are in the group. I think it's maybe well, to me it's small. It's like maybe 200 or so in the group. But
Wow.
it's a safe place. My goal.
Well, I want to join the group, so I'm gonna go on your website. So what's that website again? Because I want to join this group.
It's Worthy Women Serving Wins. Worthy Women 2020 is what the most recent one is called.
Okay.
You an invite, but it's a place where sometimes it's just a regular cute post, and then
sometimes they've had guests to come. She's had guests to come in and speak to the group and everything else. So, and the course, what I am really saying too is, not only is the group phenomenal, but the course is phenomenal.
It's phenomenal. Wonderful. So you have your virtual book signing coming up, right? At the end of this month. You also have in May, you have a course that you're going to be doing, a couples course. And then after that, you're going to be putting a 6-month like kind of master class for, individuals and couples.
Right. It's a monthly subscription.
Monthly subscription. Wonderful, wonderful. So as we wrap,
and the Worthy Women's
and the Worthy Women's eggs, right. So as we wrap this conversation up, which I could talk to y'all all night. I mean, we've talked on the phone, and the last time I think Naila, you was like, "I see if you don't get off this phone, I got work to do." I could talk to y'all all day. So what I do want to do for those that it's 8:30 now. Some of us got to go pray and all of that good stuff. If you had one piece of advice, whether it be to someone looking to get married or a married couple, I want each of you to individually give what would that last piece of advice for those that are listening, what would that be, or one final thought that you would like to leave with them. So we'll start with Sister Naila.
For a couple to understand that you don't have to agree. Resolution is so important. What people do is they have a problem or an event and they sit back. That's not what happened. You lied. That's not what I said. Mm-hmm. Oh no, you didn't. I know you didn't. That's not what you told me.
Mm-hmm. So the semantics of what was actually said.
And they get caught up in the event. You're wrong. I don't know how you think that you doing that would be okay. And then go back and forth doing this for hours. Mm-hmm. You don't have to agree. Sometimes the other person really will not even understand you. I do not get how you got there at all. Mm-hmm. However, because I love you and I'm not going anywhere, we are going to resolve this issue. And people say often, he doesn't understand me. She doesn't even agree with me. She doesn't agree with anything that I say. Get rid of those two things. Go back and forth, and then we call that convincing mode. Basically, at that point, you're not trying to solve the problem. You're just trying to make sure that the other person, that you convince the other person to do what it is that you want.
Wow, powerful.
Oh, let it go. I don't have to be right. One of the things that the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, what is it where, and I'm paraphrasing, where he says, the reward that you get for leaving in an argument, even if you're right.
Right.
I don't have to be right, but we do need to know, what are we going to do?
Right. What are we going to do moving forward so we can stay together? Because that's the intention. That's the goal.
Exactly. Right. And that would be my thing. If people would do that, we see many things change.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you for that, Brother Hasan. All right, now bring it home.
Well, I'm gonna keep it simple. That you don't have to defend everything that comes at you. Mm-hmm. Because what happens is when you are defending, you're actually negating what the other person is actually telling you.
Right.
So, it's not always about, well, I didn't mean to do that, or that is not really about the defending.
Right.
It's about listening, going into it with, what can I do differently to give you a different experience?
So versus, rather than saying, oh no, you got it all wrong. You know what? I see that I didn't come across correctly. But since I didn't, I do.
So look for where you look at you more than pointing.
Exactly.
What can I do so that you can believe or feel differently about me and what
happened?
Wow, beautiful. So simple, but so powerful. And it's all about doing the work. We have a last comment here that says, Alhamdulillah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continue to preserve you all and guide us all in the straight path. Ameen. So I want to just say once again, thank you so much, Brother Hasan and Sister Naila, for being so transparent, and even tonight having at moments difficult conversation. We had that tonight. Wasn't always an easy conversation to have, but we, by Allah's permission, we've been able to push through and really drop some gems for those that are listening. Please, for those viewers that have been from the beginning to right now, continuously watching, haven't dropped off, if you haven't gotten the book, please go on Amazon and order the book Selection Perfection by Brother Hasan and Naila Clay. it is a must-have. It is actually one of my Ramadan reads for this year. So it is a must-read. Trust me, I've been skimming through the book. I love it. And I'm so excited for each and every one of you. Please, if you're looking to get married and you do have the ability to receive counseling, it doesn't mean something is necessarily wrong with you, but sometimes, as Sister Naila mentioned, it may be something that you never even thought was or could be a trigger. And having a different perspective, another pair of eyes, set of eyes, look and I'm speaking in a figurative sense, another set of eyes look in to your situation and be able to help you see things that you didn't. It can make all the difference in having a healthy relationship or not having one. So thank you so much. We are here, as I mentioned before, to empower, to educate, the women and the girls that they are raising. But brothers have been sitting here listening, and, we all need one another. And this is just another, example, Brother Hasan and Sister Naila, of the empowerment and the education that you do. So if you know another couple like this, or if you know another woman or another man in the community that are just doing some great things that need to be heard, the community needs to hear about it so we can support and we can benefit from it, please let me know. Reach out to me at jessica@jessicacares.org, and we'll get them on the show, God willing, so that way we can continue to empower our communities and be that much stronger. If you haven't, please go to our YouTube page at Asiya Nasir Shaheed, click that subscribe button and like this video, so that way more and more people can hear about the beautiful work that Brother and Sister Clay are doing. Thank you once again for joining the show.
Thank you.
And so you have a good night. And for your viewers, have a great night. And we'll see you for the next episode coming up on the 23rd of this month.